I love a lot of texture and color, and I feel like the texture, many times I'm thinking about it, the kind of people that I like who are filled with layers. It's not just a superficial varnish. We can be together and we're mingling, but we don't have to be completely mixed or change ourselves, but we are so nice together.
Hello and welcome. On this season of the podcast, I get to sit down with artists and sponsors involved in the 2024 studio tour put on by Great Falls Studios in Virginia. And this is the annual art festival where visitors have access to creators with an emphasis on learning about and sometimes getting involved in the artist's creative process. The tour takes place this year on Saturday, October 19th and Sunday, October 20th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can find out more on www.greatfallsstudios.com. So that's www.greatfallsstudios.com. Thank you and enjoy the show. Well, here we are. Welcome to this episode. And today we've got local artist Elizabeth Bertholon with us from her studio here in Great Falls. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Silvana. So nice to be here today. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, yeah. Do you go by Elizabeth full or do you have any nicknames?
My nickname is actually E.
E. Okay. So there we go. That's easy.
That's easy.
With an E.
Yes.
So I see that you've got some lovely art. We can't wait to talk about that. Let's dig into our typical questions. What's your education background with art, or just your work background, or just general, doesn't have to be art, just where do you come from?
So I have a very creative mom who taught me to paint and sew and stain wood from a very young age. She was always doing projects and I was her assistant. She would make me clothes, make my Barbies clothes, and I really fell in love with art and painting at home, actually. And as I grew, fashion actually became my first love. And I thought I needed to learn French and move to Paris. So I studied abroad in the south of France for a year to learn French. And I really fell in love with the language. So I ended up becoming a French teacher, actually. And I did that for many years. And then 2019, my kids were all grown. And I was always doing painting and drawing and things in the background and in my home. But, you know, I got this new pull again for art. And I went to a retreat in Sayulita, Mexico.
So Mexico inspired you.
Mexico and this painter in general and this retreat and everything really inspired me. And I really realized that I wanted to be an abstract painter during this time. So that became a whole new, because before I was more realist and I just was like, oh, this is my thing. And then COVID hit. And so I had all this focus time and I just ran with this abstract art intention. And in order to connect with people, I started posting my paintings for the first time. And people started collecting. So it really gave me another boost, a new thrill to really continue to follow that dream.
Just to back, do you remember the artist's name in Mexico?
Nicholas Wilton.
Yeah. Nicholas Wilton.
And he does an amazing program. It's called Art to Life. And I'm actually doing this program with him right now, live online, called Creative Visionary Program. And it's just incredible. It's very cool. I really have learned so much from him and his coaches. That's
so nice that you've continued, being able to study under him to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic. I know one other creative lady, she worked at the opera, actually, the DC opera. And she was very taken by opera. She had heard it at a certain age and she just thought, what is this? And she ended up moving to France also and learning the language and, embracing European culture. So that's what I was thinking of when I heard this, that, where did you go in the south of France?
Oh my gosh, Aix-en-Provence. I was so lucky.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just
very nice.
It was thrilling. And the south of France is still my favorite place on earth, actually. After Virginia, maybe. But
And are you originally from Virginia?
Yes. Yeah. My father was in the military and then worked for NATO when I was a young child. So we were in Virginia Beach. And I think that also influenced me, hearing all these different accents in the house all the time, because we had people from around the world in the house all the time. And that piqued my interest of language.
And it made you kind of comfortable with the world too, because you said, oh, you're aware of it, and you knew obviously nice enough people.
From all over. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah, very cool. And now you're an avid traveler, so that's great.
I've been to about 56 countries. We were counting them with my kids the other day, and a couple times. So I really do. My husband and I love, for about 3 years when the girls went off to college, we just traveled nonstop, which was amazing also.
That is amazing. What a luxury and a privilege. So are there any places left?
There are, actually. I do. Absolutely. I want to go to Patagonia. In Argentina, I want to go to Peru. I do have a soft spot for Europe, so I will always go back there. I've been to China and India and Polynesia and quite a few places. I have been very lucky. It was one of my first dreams was to travel around the world, probably because of my dad and all these people that were in the house. Very
cool. So you're a painter. Do you strictly painting? Did you ever delve into any other art forms?
I do sometimes use different mediums. So I did a series of things with broken mirrors. I'm now teaching myself to do gold leaf, which is my new favorite thing. I love it. And I think my colors, I really love warm colors like copper and gold. And that goes really well to me with gold leaf. So I'm playing a lot with that.
I'm wondering, going back to Nicholas Wilton, what was it that triggered you there? Like, what do you find it is that moved you at that point?
For me, I believe it was the first time that I really heard a man talking a lot about emotion, and that opened up something inside me. That I'm a super emotional person, but often men were like, don't show emotion, be strong.
Right. Especially military, sure.
Right. So it was like, oh, okay. And he really brings that out of you, that the way we create individual art is actually by expressing your emotion, because you're the only one who has that exact emotion. So if you can translate emotion to your painting, then you've done something unique automatically. And this concept of emotions being so highly valued is something that is what I love about making art, and what I love about making the abstract art also. And I can just follow my whims, and complete freedom. And I really love that.
It's like a safe space to explore them, and people like them, and you can show them. Yeah.
And then talk about them. And then you end up talking about emotions, which connects you with other people and makes other people also realize that emotions are good, and kind of trickle down effect.
Well, it's very human, part of being human. When you start a piece, can you describe your creative process? You're talking about tapping into your emotion and following the trail of that emotion. And
that's for sure. I do. I really think I love to daydream. That's where a lot of my thoughts come from. Daydreaming is super important for me. And just letting my maybe subconscious come forward. So I definitely almost always start with a daydream, some vision that I get. And then or sometimes it's colors, I'll imagine two new colors together and think, oh, that could be cool. And then I'll start with that on the canvas. But then eventually with my music playing and in time, I'll just get into a flow and something else kind of takes over. And it kind of almost feels sometimes like the brush is creating the painting more than me.
A little bit like a trance.
A little bit, yeah, but I'm totally lucid and everything. Yeah. But yeah.
No. But what I mean is that, can you paint with other people around, or it really is like
Good point. Yeah, I like to be alone.
And you've got music, and you're in your zone.
Yeah, it is a bit.
So I guess that's what I meant. Yeah. That's what I meant. I guess not like a trance in terms of you're influenced by something, but you're just kind of locked in and letting that flow from within. You're not being interrupted or distracted by anything else.
100%. That's exactly right. Yeah, you're very intuitive.
Yeah, I'm imagining, because, I love getting into the zone. You're just like, gosh, you want to be in the zone all the time. And, just that easygoing feeling, and you're not overthinking anything and worrying about anything. You're just free.
Totally free. And it's really fun sometimes too, that you're so much in that zone that, you finish a day and you're just totally, it's kind of exhausting, you know? When you're done, you're like, oh, wow, I'm really tired. And you go and they come back the next day and you see it totally differently. You're like, oh, wow, I did that, you know? You don't even kind of realize it in the moment.
I love waking up and then seeing it, especially, you know, if you work with a lot of colors and you've taken that painstaking time to get it just right, you get details just right. And then you go, oh, look at that. It actually came across like there's such a satisfaction to painting, to art, to visual art that you just say, oh my gosh, all of that effort does pay off. You know, it's not missed because sometimes you think, oh, it's not good enough.
What does this mean or something? But then it ends up coming through.
Yeah, and you're happy with it. Yeah. What have you got? Just, you don't have to do the tour yet,
okay.
But you've got some pieces in behind there.
Yes.
Do you have stuff that you're, you know?
This one is finished. This is a huge, like 36 by 60, two paintings. This one is a work in progress, as is that one. And this one is a play with new colors that I am actually exactly what you were talking about, mixing and trying to find just some dynamic new. It's very different for me. So that's definitely just a work in progress and a
cool.
Yeah, I'm just trying out some things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so just turning to studio tour, because you're going to be showing this year.
Yes.
Thankfully, you managed to sort through all of your busy plans with weddings and such.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
Yeah. Will this be your second one?
This will be my second one. Yes. I moved to Great Falls a year and a half ago. So last year was my first studio tour and it was just, I absolutely loved it. I felt so much dynamic exchange with the community and talking about painting like we were saying and talking about what someone sees, what someone feels, what this reminds them of, what it brings up in them. I just was thrilled. I had so much fun. And there were people that really knew abstract art, and then there were people who'd never really seen abstract art. And it was fun to talk to everyone, actually.
Well, I guess, I was about to say, what are your impressions of it? But was there a lot of traffic coming through? What do you think people are looking for? Or, if you can kind of just share your experience of it.
There was a lot of traffic, especially the weekend. Friday, there were more people than I thought overall. I think maybe I had 80 people come by. It was incredible. It was nonstop for me. And the great thing is that I didn't never get tired because it's so exciting. Talking to the next person that comes in, you don't know what they're going to say. You don't know what their background is. You don't know what they're going to like or not like. And it's just, it was a thrill. Yeah. It was really a thrill. And I think people are looking for, one person was interested that I do collaborations with people because she said something about her mother maybe moving in and that could give her something cool to do. I think most people were really excited to talk and to explore. I mean, who wouldn't be? What a cool thing to be able to go buy a map over the weekend and just visit all these different kinds of artists. It's incredible. It's really a gem. And people come from DC, from Maryland. Definitely some people buy. Also, some people say, I think if on the bigger painting that I sold, she was like, I really, really want that. Can I just call you back Monday and make sure? And I said, of course. Not everyone's going to buy right on the spot. But it's not the point either. The point is the exchange, is the living in the art world and talking about art. It's just super thrilling.
Very cool. So for this year, what do you plan? What can people expect when they come to your studio?
Well, I did learn something last year, and I think I'm going to start a newsletter this year because people kept saying, do you want me to sign up for your newsletter? And I thought, I need to do a newsletter.
So they can stay on top of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, even if it's just quarterly or something, just to see what the new things are and talk about art again. But one cool thing that I think I did was started a painting over the weekend. Well, last year I did 3 days, so I can't do all 3 days this year, but I'm doing the weekend. So I'll start a painting, and then anyone who tags me on Instagram or Facebook and follows me will be put in the lottery to win the painting. And the person last year who won was just thrilled. So that was, I thought, a really fun thing, and people can come in and And I might even add, let them make a mark. Let people make marks on the painting that want to. Not everybody wants to, but
yeah. I was going to do something here at the gallery where I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to have a bunch of scrap stuff and people can come in and, maybe paste something down, add to the collage or draw something in, just so that they're part of a process. Yeah. And just maybe, then I was like, and then what, are people going to want to come back or I don't know, what are the expectations when you start to do that? Because last year I had for the kids, I had stuff set up for the kids to come in and they kind of, because we were working with paints, it was like, you had to carry everything like this, and I thought, oh, I need to do something that's a little bit more portable. But then I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to like really focus on collaboration and everybody having a part of it. And maybe like a lottery kind of thing to raffle it off after the fact or something like that would be fun.
That's fun, especially with the collage, because people who maybe make marks on my painting, they might disappear over the weekend. You know what I mean? People might put something over. I think people are more likely to see their collage probably piece that they put at the end of the weekend, which might be exciting too.
Right. Or just leave it up for a number of time and then keep it as a collector piece or something too, so that's always an option, but always thinking like, oh, how to serve kind of the public and give them something, give them experience and something that enriches their lives through the studio tour, really.
Agree 100% because you don't think about it, but some people have never touched a paintbrush or never cut out something to collage, their world is a whole different place. So that really can open up their mind to, oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. And just to have like a fun memory or something.
I had some coloring books here too, actually, for the kids, but we really didn't have a lot of kids. I didn't have a lot of kids.
It was Friday that was like the kid day for us. Like the moms coming with the kids on the Friday. I think it was probably homeschoolers that were coming in. Can't remember exactly, but I remember the Friday was the kids' day. So that was fun. So it's officially the studio tour is Saturday and Sunday. I'll just do unofficial Friday
at the gallery.
At the gallery, just to invite the kids back and stuff like that. So, cause it's nice. I enjoy it. I love seeing the kids do stuff. I think it's so interesting that you chose like France to go to and it's like romantic. My dad hitchhiked down to Mexico and he met my mom there and they wrote back. So I'm always like, oh my gosh, I have such a, romantic idea about, traveling and meeting, interesting people and potentially your spouse or, something.
Well, that did happen to me too, actually, because I ended up marrying a French man.
Yeah. So there you go. You moved at a time when you were just this young girl going off and pursuing her dream of learning French and living in France. And you met your French man. That's pretty fun.
Actually, I met him right after. Sorry to break the romance, but I did meet him back in Virginia, believe it or not.
Isn't that funny? That is funny, actually.
But, if I hadn't learned French, I wouldn't have met him. Right. So it really was.
That's so funny.
A huge part of it.
That's funny.
Anyway.
No, it's fine. I don't want to like go into, too much of people's personal lives, but I just thought, oh gosh, that's the stuff of books and, these great, fairy tales, you go off and you do these things and one thing leads to another. And next thing you know, you've got this beautiful family, 3 kids, and now they're embarking on their lives. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And your parents were too. That's so beautiful. It's a wonderful thing to mix cultures. I think about that too when I'm painting because I feel like I love a lot of texture and color. And I feel like the texture, many times I'm thinking about it like the kind of people that I like who are filled with layers. It's not just a superficial varnish. You've got all these different layers that make someone beautiful. And I feel that way when I'm painting, and mixing colors and I love to not quite mix them completely sometimes. So you still see the different colors engaging with each other. And I feel like sometimes that's different cultures. We can be together and we're mingling, but we don't have to be completely mixed or change ourselves. But we are so nice together.
That's interesting. So with the glass, for example, that's an interesting texture. It's not necessarily, warm and soft. Can you say a little bit more about that piece?
I love light. I love summertime. And I was playing with how could I bring even more light? And I just tried it, and I loved the way the light bounces off the mirrors. And even when you're walking past it, it kind of glitters. It's alive. As you walk past, the light follows you and glitters it in different places. And I really fell in love with that too.
Yeah. Are there any artists that really inspire you? Like, from any point?
I've read a lot of books about the beginning of the abstract movement after I really, felt that click inside me, that freedom. I wanted to learn more about how it started and what other people have seen in it. And in the beginning of the movement, there was Lee Krasner and Elaine de Kooning, who I just totally admire, and I'm in awe of what they did at a time when most women weren't even allowed to say what they thought about the news or whatever, and they were pushing through and totally free and helping their spouses at the same time, but never losing themselves as artists, and really playful and confident. My very first love was actually Van Gogh. As a kid, I remember just completely falling in love and wanting to see where he painted, especially the places in France. I obviously went to see all the spots.
Yeah, so that's probably clicked in a lot, like very strongly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
And I love that. I wish I could talk to him. There's been many times I've read his book of all his correspondence between him and his brother Theo and a bunch of different things. But, I wish I could tell him that he's the greatest of all time now, because he was so not really respected that much back then, and even taunted as being strange and, would love
unsuccessful.
Right.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Yes, I know. I feel terrible about that. He was such a real and wonderful person. And I think about his paintings, those swirls that are so infamous now. And I don't know if you ever heard about that, but 60 years after his death, it was mathematically proven that those swirls were perfect. They were perfect mathematically. And this guy made the theory of turbulence, and they can't actually believe how perfectly Van Gogh drew them. And I would love to ask him. It always makes me wonder, could he see them somehow? Could he see the movement of energy? Or, he was so in tune that he just knew it or felt it somehow. That's always thrilled me. I wish I could ask him that.
That's interesting. And always a swirly sky. It is enthralling. There's something that you fall into looking at it. And when you look up at the sky sometimes, he still lives with us so strongly. And if only you could tell him that at the time, that he's touched so many souls and so many hearts and inspired so many people. I'm sure he would have appreciated that.
And I guess it's a good lesson for all of us, no matter what we're doing. If we're doing something from the heart, don't stop. Even if nobody around you right now understands it to be something special, it could very well touch the whole world someday.
It could. And to not be afraid to do something, different, or maybe have a theory or something like that and say, well, I'm just going to show that. I mean, who knows? But, if you'd asked him, maybe his answer would be disappointing to some people, because sometimes you want people to kind of live up to what you have in your mind or something like that. And so it's a bit of the Boo Radley, kind of just leave them in peace. But yeah, it's always like, you always want to ask so many questions. Is there anybody else like that? Hey, what were you thinking when you did this? Or, what inspired you to do that? Is there anybody else who comes to mind like that in terms of artists?
Well, probably, the first being, I know some people say there are other people, but the first that we all know are Jackson Pollock. That was so different for the time, the splashes. And I can just imagine so many people must have really made fun of him. Like, you're just throwing paint. I can do that. And yet it was so well done that you follow through. There's a feeling, there's another emotions that come out of it. And maybe like, how did you know? How did you think of that? Or what made you do that and stay with that, even though you were starving,
Yeah. And something that my dad had mentioned like speaking of layers, that he just said, because of the sheer size of the pieces, when you stand in front of a Pollock and you stand just at the right depth, or nearness to it, you become submerged in the 3D nature of that paint coming off the canvas. And it's just an incredible experience. They look great in books, but so much art, really needs to be experienced in person to really get that visceral, exchange with it.
100%. That's so beautifully said. Yes.
Gosh, were you thinking about that or not? Or anyway, but we get to enjoy it. So thank you, Jackson Pollock, as well.
Thank you, and Krasner for pushing him.
Right. Exactly.
Some of these two I actually did en plein air in France. And this one was after I visited the lavender fields in France. This one was my first attempt to just work with a different gold leaf, but this is actually gold foil. That's not gold leaf. But I also have some glitter in there, so I was doing a bunch of different things, and I put this little drip coming off of the painting. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And these are some more glass works. It's called Dance With Me. So that's the main part of the studio. And then this is the gold leaf. Soft, but actually tons and tons of layers when you get close up.
Yeah, you can see the depth in there. Cool.
A couple of my biggest ones. Those are all works in progress. But that one's also like a multimedia one with a bunch of collages beneath it.
Yeah.
And this was probably the first one I did after that art retreat, which was kind of like going from realism to abstraction. So I've kept her for myself because she has a lot of meaning as a turning point in my life. This one I call Two Worlds Colliding. And there's also gold leaf in there. And I think they sort of, in the end, turned out to look kind of like brains. And I was thinking, is it myself and my husband, man and woman, colliding to make this new connection? But it wasn't my intention. That just kind of in my workspace. Yeah. And my workspace.
All the tools there and all the stuff that happens. So, and then you step out.
And then I have
nice.
my garden, yes, which I plant a bunch of different flowers that flower at different times and different textures. And I'll just stare at that for inspiration sometimes.
Well, you look very at home considering, you just moved there a little while ago, really. So
thank you. That's
definitely
the nicest thing
home.
I've heard.
So
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very happy.
I just go, gosh, you're creating, Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, thank you, Savannah. Thank you so much for this chance to be with you and talk with you about art.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, this has been great. So it took a while to put it all together, but in terms of schedules, but here we are, and we caught you in between travel, I guess. So yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing you at Studio Tour. So
absolutely, and well before that too.
And I just want to say, how do people find you?
Okay, yes. So for Facebook, I'm Wrapped Art, and Instagram, I'm Elizabeth Bertholon Art, and online, I'm wrappedart.com. HTTPS.
So I just want to make sure that people can find you and
you're amazing,
and follow you along and tag and we'll see. It's fun. This is a really fun platform. So sometimes you go curse modern technology, but I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is I've never a wonderful way to connect. So anyway,
absolutely.
Have a great day and great.
I appreciate
Thank you again, Elizabeth.
So
this was fun.
That was really fun.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's an honor to co-chair the studio tour this year with Sandy Buffy. And on behalf of the Great Falls Studios artist community, I'm sending out a big thank you to the tour's corporate sponsors: Emily Marentette Real Estate, Brightview Senior Living Great Falls, Moss Building and Design, RJS Construction, Surrounds Landscaping, Stacy Tucker's State Farm Insurance, Dianne Van Volkenburg at Long & Foster Real Estate, the residences at Colvin Run, Blue Chicken Bakery, Broadway Gallery, and L'Auberge Chez François. Ooh la la. And a big thank you to all those who make it out to visit us.